you're all probably familiar with the term Orwellian world. George Orwell and his famous work 1984. He said that by 1984 the world's going to be really crooked. Well, I think it was born 1901, 1903 actually, 1903, and he died in 1950, something like that. And anyhow, but we didn't really talk much about Orwell, but we gave a very interesting contrast to this fellow who was born in a British family, but in India. His father lived in India, and his father was seems like he was a wealthy fellow, and most of his income came from a business he had that had to do with slaves. He had a lot of slaves working for him on some kind of property, whatever they were growing down there. So that might have some connection with these ideas of the work he did 1984, where he clearly feared oppression. You know, that there will be people will be restricted. People's access to books, to information, to free thinking would be restricted, and would be restricted by very painful means. I mean, to the point where, where the society is run by a party, and by a party which is so concerned the way you think, that they'll go at lengths to do anything to prevent you from thinking the way they don't want you to think. So even if they, well, that's quite mind-freaking, that you have someone attempting to police your mind. That's one of the subtle forms of sound that we do not perceive. We can make assumptions as to what people think, but no one can clearly really tell what anyone's thinking. And here you have a whole group, a whole society organized in such a fashion where they try to control even your thoughts. So you can just imagine the first that kind of restriction. It's very stifling. It's make you feel very uncomfortable, and let alone the thought that as they go about this, they would certainly make a whole lot of mistakes, because they'll be just assuming an awesome lot, I lived in Yugoslavia as a child. I grew up there. So they ran on a communist system. It wasn't a communist system in East Europe, but it was. We had a glimpse. We had a glimpse of it. Like you couldn't just say anything about the president. Like right now, I can say, this is recorded and it'll be on YouTube, that look, Obama, you didn't fulfill much of the promises you made. Our troops are still in Iraq, and boys are dying and girls are getting raped, and Iraqi oil is still being exploited. Get it? And I'm still alive, and hopefully I don't end up in jail. Probably not. But in those days, had I said something like this, I'd be running a huge risk of being locked up. So this is certainly a very, very frightening situation to live in this kind of environment. Yet, Aldous Huxley, who lived at the same time and wrote at the same time as George Orwell, and both are British, by the way, he took it a level further. He did not fear that people will be prevented from accessing information, knowledge, books, and blah, blah, blah. But he feared that people will have no interest. That the society will be made in such a way, will run in such a way that people will have no interest to acquire knowledge, to be situated in truth. Like the Vedic proverb is, Satyam Jayate, that truth is victory. That's victory. Truth is victory. But these folks would not be interested, and he described that in his absolutely brilliant novel, A Brave New World. Some of you might have read it, world famous work. where he describes this society where everything is just pleasant. Everything is just pleasant. And in case if you even feel some discomfort, you just pop a pill of soma. Soma is a pill that chemists have come up with after many, many years of research, and has very little side effects, and and it just it drugs you. It makes you feel good. So whatever's happening should be fine, and it should just feel okay. It doesn't matter whether it's consistent or inconsistent, whether it makes any sense. It just feels good. And at the end of the novel, towards the end, there's this discussion, because in the middle of all this civilization where no one cares about knowledge, everyone just cares about pleasure, there is this territory, a remnant of an old civilization they called reservation. And one fellow happened to cross the boundary and enter the new world. And he's just he's trying to get along with the program, but he just can't. He just cannot, because he cannot sacrifice knowledge for the sake of pleasure, which is what these people were doing. He just couldn't bring himself to do that. I cannot be reduced to a moron, to a pleasure-seeking moron. I can't be stupid. I can't. He rebelled, and at the end, the pressure from the society is so strong that he actually committed suicide. Because in one point, he left the society. He says, "That's it. To hell with you guys," and he went to a lighthouse. It was like an outpost somewhere, and said, "I'm going to farm. I'm going to just grow my veggies here, and to hell with you. I'll perform austerities. I'll meditate. I'll pray. I'll study. I'll, whatever." And it didn't work. It didn't work because these people from the new world, at the end, discovered them and came there, and they just found it interesting, and they just started having what they called orgy, porgy, There was you get a clue, just from the words. That was a game where they would just pass a love bowl, It was filled with, whatever, some pleasantries to eat, and all laced with, not acid, but with soap. They would eat that, and they would just, and then they would all have sex, So that's what they were doing there, Oh, look at the savage. They all called him a savage, And they would clap, and they would toss things at him and say, "Hey," because someone once saw him beating himself, once he had this desire in him, to sacrifice knowledge for the sake of pleasure, It was just a sensual urge because he was exposed to so much sensuality, and yet he was trying to be some kind of a yogi. Keep in mind, by the way, that Orwell Huxley was a yogi. He was initiated by a Swami from a Vedanta society, and it was a Vedic practitioner, so that's where he got all these ideas from. So he was trying to be yogi, and all these desires that were reducing the quality of his existence down to an animalistic central platform, mere central platform. Once he thrown himself into a thorny bush, and when he came out of a thorny bush, he started beating himself, this desire, get out of my head, And these savages saw it, and they're all intoxicated all the time, just pleasure-driven folks, Whatever they see, it's entertaining. So, hey, beat yourself. That's all, entertain us, hello. And when he wouldn't, they would throw things at him, soma and stuff, whatnot, packets of food. Do it for us, entertain us, and he just couldn't take it, and he hung himself. Very, very, very instructive story. So, so here's a little summary. This is a summary that came out of this conversation I had with this writer. So, comparison runs like this. Orwell feared those who would ban books. However, Huxley feared that there would be no reason to ban a book, for there would be no one who would want to read one. I lived in the States for like 15 years now, and just over 15 years I've seen a degradation that, people just are totally incapable of being present, like calm. They sit down in the middle of the text, the text, and they're communicating with someone who's not there. Hardly anyone reads, especially if they read, they usually don't read something with substance. It's usually some trivial entertainment. YouTube videos, I was so fried with YouTube the other day. I don't spend much time YouTubing, except when I upload my own videos. But I looked at the home page, since a few weeks ago, at least that's when I noticed it, they have this column on the right-hand side where they picked featured videos. My God, does that get trivial? My God, does that get trivial? There's no heaviness, there's no substance to it, there's no thought in it. It's just like mindless entertainment. And then I said, to hell with it. Then I clicked on jazz music channel category. Then I thought, okay, let me see. I used to enjoy jazz music until I shifted over to Indian classical music. And I thought, let me see what they have under jazz music. Probably I'll hear some good quality music. It was the cheesiest jazz I ever heard. Why are they doing that? They're catering to the audience. They're catering to the people. In other words, the masses of people want exactly that. No substance, just entertainment. Give us some soma, dude. Turn the brain off and just entertain ourselves. So, then Orwell feared that the truth would be concealed from us. However, Huxley feared the truth would be drowned in a sea of irrelevance. In other words, people would not see truth as relevant. So what? It's true. I don't care. I just don't care. I just want to feel good. Then Orwell feared we would become a captive culture. Huxley feared we will become a trivial culture, preoccupied with some equivalent of the feelies, the orgy, porgy, and the centrifugal bumblepuppy. If you have not read, A Brave New World, then you don't know what it means, and I'll translate for you real quick. Okay. So Orwell feared that we'll become a captive culture. That things we do will be forced to behave a certain way by crude force, by brute force. Okay. However, Huxley feared we would become a trivial culture, shallow, trivial culture, preoccupied with things equivalent to what Huxley described in Brave New World as feelies. Feelies were the movies. Were the movies where you would not only hear and see, but you would also feel. That's what they call feelies. And like you would smell things. And the whole point of a movie was not that you would, leave the movie having become enriched spiritually, intellectually, philosophically. No. You would just be entertained. You would just be entertained. You felt good. The sound was great. The images were great. The smells were great. The sense of touch was just far out. Those were the feelies. So, and we're not far from that. We just need to. Anyways, I don't watch movies not because I don't like movies, but because I have not seen a movie that had any spiritual, philosophical, or intellectual substance. There's one I can recommend. What is it? Spring, winter, spring. Excuse me. What's up? Spring, summer, fall, winter, and spring. That's the name of the movie. Highly recommended.
It's amazing.
You watched it?
It's amazing.
Yeah. That's something that you can gain some wisdom from. And it really tells you something deep about life, some really important things about life. Spring, summer, fall, winter, and spring. It's about 2 months. Very, very instructive. But some other time about that. And then orgy, porgy I described, and centrifugal bumblepuppy. That was a game. It was just a stupid game, Like there was this tower, and then the tower had like a thing up there that would spin, and there'd be a ball up there. You throw a ball up there, and then the ball would fall down through an opening, and then would hit another spinning thing that would make the ball fly into a certain direction, and then there were a lot of holes, and the ball would come out through any of the holes, and the ball would just like fall out in a certain direction, and people would just run and go get it, like dogs, like you toss a bone and a dog, or tennis ball, dogs runs, gets it, and brings it back, and he just watches you. In other words, there's no point to it, I grew up in Europe where soccer is just people kill for it, and what it is just like 22 dumb people, kicking a ball all over the place, running after another dumb thing called a ball, and then when they make the ball pass a certain line, they all go insane. Well, only only 11 guys go insane. The other 11 go sad. Want to commit suicide, and they'll look. What the happened? The ball just crossed a stupid line. Like there's no sense. There's no point. It's just meant to entertain people. We have artificial ascribed values. Whatever, cricket, basketball, you name it. People just entertain themselves. There's no. What for? Nothing. Just for the sake of entertainment. Just numb yourself out. Numb yourself out. That's all. The civilization of mass, not destruction, but distraction. And then, in 1984, which is the book, Orwell said that people are controlled by inflicting pain. People fear to even think differently than what was demanded from them. However, in the brand new world, people are controlled by inflicting pleasure. It's so insidious. So they're not controlled by brute force, but they're controlled by inflicting pleasure. I mean, is this, hello? I mean, left and right, up and down. I think that's where we're at. That's the world we live in. Try to strike a conversation sometimes with someone, and I mean, if it has any substance, the person is asking, what herb are you taking? In short, Orwell feared that what we fear will ruin us. However, Huxley feared that the pleasure will ruin us. So ultimately, we have to see and that's a yogi's dilemma, whether we want to sacrifice pleasure for the sake of knowledge, or we want to sacrifice knowledge for the sake of pleasure. It's a very important question, and it's also a good philosophical question that we ourselves need to resolve in our minds, and then make a contribution to this world. Okay, so any questions or comments, or anyone like to add something to this? My session's over. Yeah.
Why can't it be a balance between pleasure and knowledge?
Yeah, it could be, but there's clearly a tension point, a point in which we choose pleasure over knowledge, or knowledge over pleasure, which is very well portrayed in Huxley's novel. And we see it's very relevant. I mean, true pleasure, I forget, I put it on Facebook, but whenever I had some thoughts which I think are worth sharing with the rest of the Facebookers, I put it on there. and I think I wrote that some people sacrifice pleasure for the sake of knowledge, and some people sacrifice knowledge for the sake of pleasure. Yet it takes certain intellectual numbness, dullness, to be able to enjoy pleasure at the expense of knowledge. And usually those who are consciously, philosophically, intellectually awake, they cannot enjoy the pleasure which necessitates sacrifice of knowledge. They may try, but it's stupid. They can't do it. They're just too conscious to do it. And I know many kids, like who grow up in this pleasure, exclusively pleasure-seeking environment, and then they feel like, oh my God, I'm different, I'm weird, and then it takes them a while, to leave mother's nest and the high school fence area and meet other people and meet some interesting people to realize that they're actually okay, that they're okay, that perhaps the other section of the population is not okay, because the pleasure that comes from knowledge is way greater pleasure. So it's not that living in terms of knowledge will cut the pleasure out of the picture. No. But if you pursue pleasure that requires sacrifice of knowledge, then that's what's going on. Where you do, you seek pleasure in things which are stupid, which are dumb. Like they don't enrich your life. They just entertain you, nothing else. That was a good question, though.
You see, there's a lot of hits on these popular YouTube videos, so...
Well, it just tells you where people are at.
There must be something that's attracting people to it. Why?
I think I just described it.
Are you saying that pleasure and knowledge are mutually exclusive?
No.
Almost sounded like that's what I got from what you said. Can you clarify that? I mean,
I guess I can repeat what I just said, because I was saying that if you pursue pleasure, that for its substance there's nothing but mere entertainment, and therefore necessitates elimination of knowledge out of your life.
That clarifies, because I was thinking, well, say I get the pleasure of being here. And thank you for sharing your knowledge. And I'm getting knowledge and pleasure. So
that's the point. The point is to pursue. The point is to pursue knowledge, because the side effect of knowledge is pleasure. And in Vedic or yogic terms, you have these three aspects: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat means that which has substance, which is real, which is not ephemeral, and which stays. These are the facts about life, the facts about the world, things that do not change. They characterize absolute truth as opposed to relative truth. That's Sat. Chit means to be cognizant, to be conscious, to be situated in knowledge, to be situated in truth. And then the third natural product of it is Ananda, which literally means bliss, blissing out.